Alright, now let's continue on this project. I know we kind of took a little break from this thing, but let's finally get back to work on this and try to get this thing running a little bit better. Now, if you guys remember, in the last video of this project, it was running. This engine just never ran that great. It's lacking in like full power, and I've tried playing around with it a couple times here and there to try and fix it. And in the last video, I thought that it was that this engine just wasn't getting enough fuel, so I drilled the jets out a little bit bigger and put the jets back in, and it ran so much worse. It barely would run, so I was kind of like, well, that didn't solve it at all. That made it so much worse, but let's just end the video here and then just I'll work on it some other time. And I was reading the comments of that video, and I do agree with a lot of you guys about what you guys think is the problem. I think it's the carburetors are not getting enough airflow. So off camera a little bit, I've been playing around with it a little bit here and there. I put the stock jets back in here. I've been playing around with the pulse pump to make sure that's working. I'm playing around with the air filters that I put on here. I completely removed the air filters to see if that was the issue. And it's running just a little bit better, but it's still not running at peak power. So now what I think is possibly the way that the carburetors are recessed into the bottom of the gas tank, I think that is creating a low pressure zone in the carburetors when this thing's riding, and that's just making it to where the engine just cannot get enough airflow in here, making this engine run poorly. So we're going to test that theory. What we're going to do is we're going to take the gas tank off. We're going to put a little temporary gas tank on here, so therefore I can take it up the street without the gas tank on here and see if it runs any better. And if it does, that just does prove that it is the gas tank creating a low pressure zone in the carburetors area. And if that is, I do have a plan on how to fix that. If that's not the issue and it's still running like crap, I have a couple more things I can try, but I'm more banking on the lack of air flow issue on this, so I'm kind of hoping that that's going to just solve it. That's a big spider. Go away. So yeah, let's take the gas tank off, and I'll find some little tiny gas tank that we can somehow bolt onto this thing. Now, you guys were saying that you guys think that these air filters that I put over the carburetors are the reason why these carburetors aren't getting enough airflow, and it could be the case, could very well be true, but I don't want to remove these just yet because then that's changing too many variables right now. And if it works and we do remove these, then I'm not sure exactly what fixed it. Did removing these fix it, or did removing the gas tank fix it? So let's leave them on for now, and I'm going to fill this little gas tank up with gas. I want to take this thing up the street, see how well it runs, and if it fixes it, then it's obviously the gas tank is the culprit. If it doesn't fix it, then I'll remove these, try that, and if that still doesn't work, there's a couple other things I want to try now, but for now, let's just leave these on and see how well this thing runs just without the gas tank. This thing's acting very strange. So off camera, I have been playing around with this a lot. I've been noticing that the fuel pump, the pulse pump on here, it doesn't work all the time, and there's some times where it's not pushing any fuel. So there's some times where I have to like play around with it to get it to work, so it kind of seems like that's happening again. I've tried other pulse pumps and they just kind of do the same thing. But yeah, it's not really running the best. It's not responsive on the throttle at all. It's just bogging down as soon as I twist the throttle. It just bogs down. So okay, so I completely removed the pulse pump and just had it to where the gas tank goes directly into the carburetors, because maybe that's the reason why as soon as I twist the throttle it just heavily bogs down. I don't know, there's something going on with this engine to where it just doesn't want to rev up at all. So let's see if that fixes the problem. Here goes nothing. On. Choke is on. Alright, here we go. What is going on? Why is this just refusing to work? I'm starting to regret my engine choice. I know this is not the best engine ever, but for me at least, as long as it runs, I'm happy, and this is not running. This is not cooperating. Nothing I do will just fix it. So one thing that I think is the problem is I'm wondering if there's a vacuum leak on these carburetors. That's probably why as soon as I twist throttle, it just bogs down heavily. Maybe there's just a really bad vacuum leak on these. So I'm taking off the clamps that were originally on the intake boots. I'm going to be replacing them with hose clamps, and I'm going to see if that fixes the problem. I'm also going to clamp down the hose that goes to the pulse pump. That's a little bit loose on there, so I'll throw a clamp on that and help tighten that down. But yeah, let's just throw some hose clamps on here, and hopefully this will fix one of the... I think there's multiple issues, but hopefully this will fix at least one of them. So these are makeshift velocity stacks, because I know you guys were saying in the last video of this project that this thing needs velocity stacks to properly run. So we'll see if these do anything. I think I've solved it. I think it's just because it doesn't have any air filters that it's running like crap. This is without it with air filters. This is without air filters. I finally solved it. I figured it out. Oh, it's a miracle. Alright, it seems like I finally solved this problem. I've been spending days and days playing around with this, trying that, and it seems like it's simply just a combination of it needs some sort of velocity stacks as well as it needs some air filters that aren't just pressed up right against it. It seems like as soon as I put these air filters on here, then it ran so much better. It was responsive on the throttle, it revved super high, and it sounded super strong, which is amazing. And then as soon as I pulled these air filters out, it was just back to its original, just bogging down heavily as soon as I twist the throttle. So, basically we need to make better velocity stacks. These are kind of just thrown together. It's basically just rubber sheet that I hose clamped onto the intake of the carburetors. We need to make better velocity stacks and better air filters, but to be able to get the gas tank back on here, I think we need to cut a giant hole in the top and the bottom of the gas tank, and I'll weld some plates in the middle of it to allow for basically just a giant hole in the middle of the gas tank to allow for better airflow into the carburetors. Alright, so the velocity stacks are pretty much done. I expanded them on the top a little bit just to make it look a little bit better, and it's basically just aluminum tube that just fits over the inlet. Now, originally I was thinking for the air filters to cut out a large round disc, and then I'll just kind of drape it over the inlet and then just kind of put a zip tie around it and hold it in place. But then I'm like, that's gonna look like crap. I don't know about doing that, so I took this 1/8 of an inch TIG filler rod, drilled 6 holes, and put 3 of these in here, so therefore I can just simply take this air filter, kind of just put it in just like that, and hopefully the suction of the engine will just hold these in place. And I don't think they're gonna get sucked down into there, because I don't think they're able to do that. The gaps in between these is less than 1/2 an inch, so it's not, I don't think that, I'm hoping they're not going to get, you know, sucked down into the carburetors. Hopefully they'll just kind of sit there just like that. I may want to cut out new ones because my hands are a little bit dirty and these things just got a little bit dirty, but I can always, you know, it's easy to just cut out new ones. So, next thing we need to do is cut out the big square in the gas tank, so therefore we can get much better airflow from the top of the gas tank into these velocity stacks. Here goes nothing. Hopefully I don't ruin this gas tank by doing this, but here goes nothing. I think there's still a fuel issue with the pulse pump. Either the pulse pump is pushing too much fuel into the float bowls or just not enough. So let's let it warm up a bit. It's without the air filters. Okay, so this thing is, it's not fixed. It's not fixed yet. I really thought I solved this. I really thought I solved this. So with the air filters, in the velocity stacks, it's still just doing the same thing of, as soon as I give it full throttle, it doesn't want to rev up. You can see this smoke, which is probably just unburned fuel. And then when I pull these out, then it will rev to like full max RPM, but then it's hesitant on the throttle. I think there's still a fuel issue. There's the pulse pump is, I think it's doing something. It's either pushing too much fuel or not enough fuel. So alright, so these were the original air filters I was using, and I cut some that are thinner, so let's see if this makes a difference, because why not? It's basically just experimentation at this point, just trying things until something happens. Something is bound to happen to where it's like, okay, now it finally works. Hopefully. You know what? Let's take this thing up the street without air filters. Let's just see what that does. Actually, I want to try one more thing. I have these Go Power Sports air filter things that these are supposed to go over the air filter. So I just want to see, because these engines need some sort of air filter. They're tuned to have some sort of air filter on here. So I want to try these. I am basically just trying anything at this point. Just anything I can think of, just try it. Just see if it works. Let's see if that does something. If this doesn't work, I don't know what else I can try. If this doesn't work, actually, it's definitely the pulse pump. Not either supplying too much fuel or not enough fuel, because it was working perfect when I had the other gas tank on here. So I don't know, let's just try it. So now it's better at the mid-range, but it bogs at full throttle. So I'm tired of messing with this. I'm tired of it just not wanting to work. Alright, so I'm just going to take this thing up the street real fast. I'm not going to do any fancy camera angles, and I'm also I'm not going to run any air filters because without air filters with this setup, it was running way better at full RPM. It just, the mid-range just wasn't that great. So let's just see what it does without air filters. And if that doesn't run great, then we'll try the air filters and then we'll try some other stuff. All right, here goes nothing. Yeah, this thing's really bad at mid-range, but let's just try it. Neutral. I can't find neutral on this thing. Okay, well that sucked. That didn't work at all. All right, so that clearly did not work at all. So now we're gonna try it with just these little pop filter, air filter things on here and just see if that works. Okay, this thing is fast. Woo. Okay, so it is moderately better. It at least is getting in the higher RPMs now. It's just the mid-range kind of still sucks. At like half throttle, it just kind of bogs down, but then as soon as I hit full throttle, then it just revs super high, which is what I was trying to do at least. Because before, when I first, test rode this thing up the street, it just, mid-range was pretty decent. And then as soon as I just give it full throttle, it just bogs down a lot. So I don't know what to do at this point. I have been spending days and days playing around with this, trying that, trying to get this thing to run better. I have almost quit. I don't know how many times. I've almost given up on this thing. I've actually almost bought a new engine for this. I found on Facebook Marketplace a I think it was a 2017 Hyosung GV250 that was fuel injected. Basically the same engine, just newer and fuel injected. I was tempted to buy that, but it was $1,500 and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to have to drive 2 hours to go pick it up, and it apparently had a bunch of problems and needed like a new wiring harness, so I was a little tempted to buy a new engine for this, just because I want to finish this thing. It's just, I can't seem to get it to run perfect. At least it's running better now, but the mid-range is still, it's still just not great. So I'm gonna have to call it for this video. I've been spending a ton of time working on this, and I just gotta say it's good enough. It's now finally good enough to where I can paint and finalize this project, and I can always further tune it later on. So yeah, I've actually been I've been working on the CBR 1000 in the meantime of working on this. I'm actually getting this vehicle ready for Durham Town in the next couple weeks. I was gonna make a video on getting that thing ready, but I decided not to because we're not really doing that much with this. All I'm basically doing is just cleaning it, getting all the dirt off of it from Turkey Bay, fixing the broken taillight, replacing the key ignition, and putting on some extra mirrors. That's pretty much all I'm doing with that thing, so I decided not to do a video because it's really not that much. So I've been working on that in the meantime of working on this. Anyway, I guess that's gonna be it for this video. I gotta call it. It's running better, but it's still just not perfect, but at least it's at the point where I can now call it, and I can finally, next video of this project, we can paint and finalize this thing. So yeah, guess that's gonna be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.